So like, been several articles.
We're live.
Okay.
Hey, Tom here, FlipAnythingUSA. So this is Real Estate Happy Hour, or Anything Happy. I got my buddy Mark here with me. He's been on the podcast before, and smart guy, and been around, done a lot. And you know what? We were going to talk about just about anything. I told him I wanted to talk about why people are so gullible under 30. You know, I see people getting taken by gurus and stuff, and I think, and he actually works with some. He's kind of mentoring people in the field in which he's, you know, quite proficient, whatever that is.
Yeah. but
anyways, I don't know. What do you think, Mark? Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, good to talk. Gullibility. I think I think it's just like when you're a little child, when you don't know the stove is hot. You got to get burnt a few times.
Yeah, you don't respect it. You haven't been hurt.
Yeah, and there's this like, because I know I was this way. Like, I tell people, early when I was doing some stuff in the stock market, bought some penny stocks. They didn't turn out very well, but I think if you can keep your lessons to be reasonably cheap, it's okay. But I think people are swinging for home runs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, people wanting to get there quick. That's just in general. They say just people want to have a pill to take care of everything. Pain and ache, feel better, whatever. And so maybe it's that. I don't know. I worry about people not having any skills because most people don't have any skills. With hands. Use their hands.
Yeah. I would say two things. So the first one, the quick, there's a great story. Like I read this about a half year ago. So, but they were interviewing somebody that took a company public, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, "What does it feel to become an overnight millionaire?" Because he made like $20-30 million or something, right? And the guy goes, "Well, if you don't count the 12 years of hard work I put in, it's overnight." So that's kind of the first, and the second I would agree, like developing skills is kind of a lifelong thing, and it's both kind of skills on educating yourself, but also working, like just doing stuff.
Well, and also I think when you have skills and you've been out and you've worked, it helps you discern bullshit.
Yes.
And so you're not so gullible.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Because you just have a bigger, wider. And hey, we're going to make it so you guys can call in here too. Son, you want to come help me fix this up over here? So you'll be able to call in. We'll put the call-in number up here too.
Yes.
So
for example, this afternoon, in fact, I did this. I signed up for a class that Stanford's going to give on AI.
Oh,
right?
really?
And it's just like, and people go like, why? It's like, well, just because AI is going to impact a bunch of things, and the more you know, the better you can kind of decipher, the real things it's going to do from the fake ones. And I agree with you. It's like, it may not be directly pertinent to what I do, but I think the more you know about different things, you can kind of triangulate on the fact that that's just BS. And especially when you just look at, I think the easiest way is, I think most people know things don't add up. We were joking, you weren't at coffee this morning, but we were joking. It's like, we were talking about Bernie Madoff.
Yeah.
Somebody said, his name even told you he was going to steal the money. Madoff.
Madoff, right.
So anyway, but a lot of people they kind of bypass that, I'm kind of like skepticism, and I think skepticism is good. And by the way, when people are like, I don't know about you, but I don't mind people being skeptical with me, because I got nothing to hide or prove, so it's kind of like, I actually appreciate the fact that they're like, why should I believe this? And then you actually tell them, and other people, what I found is that when you ask people that question that are kind of like bullshit.
Thank you for calling Call-In Studios
like,
host and call screener line. Please enter your show or meeting number and press pound.
You kind of appreciate the fact that they're doing their due diligence.
Enter your 6-digit PIN number.
Yeah, I know. I've never been one. I mean, I'm always the kind of guy that when you're talking to me,
Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the Call-In Studio web interface.
Employees, they said, Tom looks like why does Tom look like he's pissed off? They go, oh, he always looks like that, you know? And it's just because I'm thinking. And people, when they're explaining, they've said this. I feel like, yeah, Tommy, you can always tell when he's talking. He doesn't believe a word you're saying. And there is truth to that, too, depending on who I'm talking to. But even if I'm just absorbing and taking it in, I'm discerning what they're saying. Correct. And I think, and that's the more experience you have out there in the workforce or anything else, the more power you have to discern what people are saying to you.
Yeah, I think it's also something you said. So I think the experience is, but I also think, like you said, you're kind of like thinking about it all the time and kind of like challenging it, not in like an ugly way, but in like, I don't know if I believe that. Why convince me?
Well, and I want to know. I want to understand. I want to, you know. And in fact, you know, when I negotiate, and I just put the live call up there. If anybody wants to call in and jump in, have at it. Hey, son, will that play on the speaker if somebody calls in? Do you think? Headphone only? Maybe you can make. Okay, you can play off the side. You can play it on the side if you can. Yeah. But anyways, so you know, you want to know, right? In other words, even when I negotiate a piece of property or anything else, I try not to offend the person that I'm buying the property from. And so, if we're at a disagreement about the value, and we always are, because I'm always trying to get it cheap, is I'll say, well. You know what? I'm trying to see a path to the price you're giving me, and of course I'm explaining why we ain't gonna get there, kindly and nicely, and he or she maybe is explaining to me, well, why it's worth what it is, and usually they got nothing other than I don't really need to sell it. I don't need the money. Yeah. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. And I always take a more logical path. I say, well, if the rents are X and the mortgage is X, and I got to get something, you know, some return on my investment down, plus the delta between the interest borrowed, and just for messing with it. And then, you know, I'm making my point, and they're understanding it, right?
Yeah.
And, So.
Yeah. And I think that's a good negotiation ploy. No matter what, but I do think that you know, people that going back circling to the gullibility. It's like I don't think people are really gullible. I think they just wave that feeling that they have a way. Now that I think about it more, it's like they see the gold ring. And they're like, I know that gold ring is not gold, but they somehow like go. They're kind of hoping it turns out. And anyway, so
yeah. And there's other things that get in the way there too. And I can say is people. They don't always want to take. I'm not this way at all, but they don't want to take responsibility for a mistake or some. So in other words, and it's for some reason, it's some sort of consolation for them if they blow it, if they make a mistake, then they can say, well, I didn't blow it. They cheated me, or they lied to me, or they, misled me. Some people own it. And so I don't know. But, hey, we can jump back to AI if you want.
Yeah, we can. I mean, it's kind of, AI is kind of an interesting thing because I'm really interested in it only because as you said, like right now I'm mentoring some people in kind of a software company, which I've done hardware most of my life, but management's just management. And it's kind of interesting is like, I would just tell everybody to figure out how AI is going to impact their businesses because it's going to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was talking to one of the people that is involved in this company, and we were having a glass of wine, and I said, what do you think is going to happen with like software developers with AI? And he's like, well, if I'm any indication, he goes, I'm not a real hardcore software developer. I'm kind of more of a product person. He goes, but I wrote my first app over the weekend. And he goes, so I knew what I had to do. And he goes, I know enough about coding to get there. He goes, but I just asked, ChatGPT to write me code for this function.
No shit.
And then and then he goes, I had written some code and I asked it to improve it. And he goes, and so what's going to happen is a lot of the low-end jobs are going to fall out of the market. The really low-end jobs that are like where you have to, like, we'll just say like janitorial services or something, those are going to survive because, AI can't do much there. But, kind of like low-end office, I also have another friend who, they're into PR. So they used to have script writers and things like that. They've gotten rid of all but like the very best of them. And then those people now use it to just, it's like, I've shown you, right? When with fishing, right? So I used to think that, AI, the search engines were like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. I can make this a great search engine. And then after talking to some people, were like, no, it does more than that. So now I just do things like, I need a fishing trip in Idaho for 5 days. I want to fish for this type of fish. Can you tell me where to fish, where I should access the river, what flies I should use, and what days I should go?
Yeah. So Mark and I, we take an annual trip. It's really a luxury float trip, where you got a guide sitting in the middle of the boat, and they're taking you down this, enormous river, Snake River usually, right?
Yep.
And everywhere's a hot spot, and anyways, but so when he plugged that trip in, it's taking into account for the months that you're going, what they're biting on during those months, and then everything from hotel accommodations to. Oh,
it will, but yeah. I mean, it'll tell you where you can stay there. Particularly the paid version, like the free version only goes back, like they've loaded everything that is available on the internet up to, I think, 2022.
Oh, really?
Now, you also have the Microsoft version that they're coming out with on Bing and things like that. But, the reason I say this is like, it is going to change lots of industries. And I would just tell people to think about how it might change their industry, because, it's also kind of one of my beliefs, which is, people always worry about like things breaking. And I actually go, that's actually the best time, because disruption is where most of the money gets made. And so the change is usually good if you can actually be on the front end of it, right? Like, it's not necessarily bad that, for example, office is like, we'll call it office buildings are not being as populated today as they were, right?
What's not as populated?
Office space,
downtown. Big time.
So now the real question is, going forward, is it going to get better or worse? Because that's where the money is. It's not knowing where you are doesn't really help you. Knowing where it might go, and I always kind of think this way. I always think about like blackjack. You're not going to win them all, but if you could count cards and move the percentages your way a bit, that changes the game, right? Because it's like, so you just got to do a little research sometimes, and it doesn't always appear to be like directly related. But like, for example, one of the things that I was reading a couple days ago was the number of, in the residential space, the number of renters is going up compared to buyers in a significant way.
Yeah. I the other day, on average, I think across the USA, only 15% of America can afford a home.
Yeah.
A median value home, wherever they live.
Yeah.
The median
I don't know
value,
if it's that low, but
yeah, that's what I read.
Okay, but I agree with you, and what I would say is, like, for example, what that's doing, I don't know if is like in a lot of places, the corporate buyers used to come in and just, they would buy properties and they didn't necessarily manage them that well.
Right.
But they're actually starting like some spots that I would personally live in. And I actually think those will become a trend. I don't know if it will, but I would like it, which is they are building whole complexes that are single family homes that they're going to rent.
Yeah, I sold 50. I had 52 acres I rezoned, and the guys that I sold it to, that was their model, was they were trying to do micro homes, number one. They put 190 homes on that 50 acres, and they said, we don't even care if we sell them. And I was actually, I really could have learned a lot more than if I wanted to, but I was like, just put the money up. I don't want to hear about any of your plans. But anyways. But
these guys are not going to sell them. They're only going to rent them.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that they're kind of doing these bigger developments is that they're actually figured out that some of their other costs, like maintenance costs, so you think about it, they're basically standalone condos, but now but now because they're all in the same area, you can get the same HVAC guy to come in, you can get the same lawn service.
The economies of scale on that
you can
alone.
drive down your costs. Anyway, and again, sometimes that knowledge helps you in your business, and sometimes it doesn't really. But having it is like, because then going back to our first topic is then sometimes you can call bullshit. Like, I don't know if I believe that. So, it's not mine.
It's Ryan's.
It's for you.
So hey, so look on that topic, and we got some of the folks in here. Liam, good to see you. Kelly, Clint, Ross, a lot of people from the mentorship in here. Andrew Hernandez, who almost got in the mentorship. And who else we got here? John. Thanks, John. So, anyways, what's cool about Mark here is that we can talk about just about any subject, any topic, and have a good time. And he's been around. In fact, just a little bit of background on Mark, without being specific. That was a World 500 company or a Fortune 500?
A World 500.
A World 500. World 500 is considerably bigger than a Fortune 500 company.
25 billion. In revenue.
So he was in a unique situation. He was like a right-hand man of the man at a big company, and so kind of like an overseer of the stuff that they'd get into. Primarily a lot of litigation, fair to say, and other things.
Operations, litigation, problems. Usually they're either really big problems or really big like opportunities, and it's always interesting because like when you do that, it's like people will go like, that was like $1 billion. I'm like, it's just, actually, business is the same at almost every level. It's just more zeros. Tell people it's like the same things happen, negotiations happen. People think like as you get bigger that somehow the world changes, and the answer is nope. Same things hold true.
No, that's what I think. That's the other thing. Everybody wants to think there's a quick and simple hack or a new. And this has been going on since I was young and in the 80s.
Correct.
It's like, whether I'm talking about real estate because that's what I love so much, but whether it be a lease option, or now they're pushing sub 2, which I think is a bunch of horseshit. I did a sub 2. My first deal was a sub 2, but it's not practical, and that's what a lot of people get rich on, is selling things that are impractical as being practical or as being easy, and it's unfortunate for the others that are out there. But, on the subject we were talking about identifying trends and that sort of thing. So this is interesting, and I'll share it. I share this with Mark, too, for the first time here. So I was in, I'm going to write in here, Sammy's Camera. Sammy's Camera, they've got like 13, 14 locations in California, and they have one in, I think it's Bel Air. We'll see. Bel Air or Beverly Hills. So this is interesting, and this is kind of, hey, Jerry, good to see you. I hadn't seen you lately. Glad to see you in here. This is my good buddy Mark, by the way, so you just got in here. So I want you to look at this because this is interesting. So this is Sammy's Camera, and this is in Beverly Hills. And Sam, I don't even know if Sammy's alive, but me and Sammy had lunch about 10 years ago, and he had a beautiful Audi V12, all carbon fiber inside. Neat old guy. And he was 70s. I'll be his age before long. But this little company here, this building he has here, this is in Beverly Hills. Well, when he bought that building, of course it was a stretch like we all do. And this has also happened to me because I've had companies and things in buildings. And we were talking about, I said, I got buildings that I started, some of my companies in, that the buildings are too good. They're too good for my company. In other words, I don't need that good of a location. I don't need that high a dollar of a building to contain the business that I have. And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, Tom, I could never afford to rent this place that I own. He said, the company doesn't make enough to rent the place that I own.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
In other words, and I said, I totally relate. And this is what'll spoil you is, you know, it's just like your home. Like, and so think about it. It's very similar to your home, right? People buy homes, and especially with the interest rate changing right now, they can't buy the home they're in anywhere else right now because the money's too expensive.
Right.
And, you know, you, like I say, you got a home, you paid a couple $100,000, now it's worth a couple million, or even $1 million or whatever. And you go, yeah, I can't go buy $1 million. Well, you got $1 million home. And this is also, by the way, why you got to buy more than one property, one to resell. That way you can kind of afford anything, include sell it to live and that sort of thing as you get older. But yeah, so like I say, this piece of property, I have no idea what it's worth. No idea. I would guess 15 million at least. But yeah, that is really the power of real estate too, by the way, is before you know it, it's paid for because you get old, time goes by, and you have a ton of equity, and then it goes up in value on top of all that. And that's why we talk about all the time, you can't afford to not invest.
Yeah.
But anyways.
I would agree with that. I mean, there's two things that come to mind based on you saying that, which is one, the Warren Buffett line, which I always like this, which is this goes to like how you not get into Bernie Madoff type deals. I like Warren. He goes, I'd rather miss a deal than to go into a deal I don't understand.
Right.
And too many people think like, there's this new way. There's this new way to make money that nobody ever thought of before. And it's like, well, if you can't understand it, it's probably not true.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's like, people just get this thing, and it's like, so mine is always, if I can't understand it, I pass.
Yeah. Yeah, you shouldn't do what you don't understand. Now, I'll make one exception. I think you can agree to this too, is if you've got money to burn, or if you've actually got a little extra money, you can afford to go to Vegas and gamble, and that's kind of how you might even look at throwing money at something.
Right, it's entertainment.
It's entertainment. If you're writing it off as entertainment, that's different. And to that point, I have a thing I always say to all my students too, it's easy to do, hard to undo.
Yes.
Because if you do something you don't understand, or you buy something that you're not sure about, it can end up being the biggest boat anchor tied around your neck, sinking you for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and then I'll go, only because it's getting to be tax season. I'll go. I was actually looking at this the other day because I was getting ready to start prepping for taxes, which is always my least favorite time of year.
Yes.
And one of the things I did, I don't know, 10 years ago, is buying a rather reasonably sized building, right? And I don't ever actually plan to turn that building. It's kind of like it's a lifetime building.
The one you own, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I was actually looking at, one of the reasons I did it because when I'm retired, I need income, but I don't want to pay tax. So how do you deal with that? Well, the answer is buildings are a great spot because, I get the cash flow, but because of the depreciation,
right,
I don't have to pay tax on all of the cash flow, which turns out to be about, like right now, because I've accelerated the depreciation the first few years.
Yeah.
Basically I pay tax on about 30% of the cash flow that I bring in, and
wow.
It's like,
yeah.
So my wife thinks I'm smart.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was been buying buildings. I started off buying buildings when I was 19, and so it was 2 decades went by before I even really. I mean, the tax guy takes care of that stuff. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And but there's so many wonderful things about real estate besides the depreciation and offsetting the income. The income is passive income, which is also taxed at a lower
right.
rate. So in fact, it's cool because in the class here right now, or in my class, but in the audience right now, we got Jerry, we got Russ. Those are also 2 guys that have found their way to buildings.
Yeah.
Jerry just got a beautiful building. I think I showed you that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Russ too. A couple of a multi-million-dollar building, and these are the benefits. It's that big rent, and it's the ability to depreciate it, and
yeah. And although mine has a side benefit. This is not a huge benefit, but it's kind of like what we were talking about. It's entertainment. Like, it's not a lot of money, but it makes me feel good anyway. Is
right.
that so? My biggest building is in in North Carolina. But I'm also a hardcore basketball fan, for those that don't know. So, and I'll probably get booed, but I'm a Duke fan. So, but we were out there last weekend, and so whenever I'm out there, I make, like not all the time, but I'll go. The building's about like half hour from the airport, so it's kind of and it's the wrong way, so I don't always go out there. But when I go out there, I can expense my trip then. And but this time I actually, I have a property management company. This time I actually found that there was something small that they needed to go take care of. I texted them a picture. It was basically there's the backflow and water shut off. They basically are in these covers, and either
for the yard, you mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and for the buildings, they're above ground, so that you can shut off the water, and they have a backflow device.
Oh, because
they're insulated. Anyway, so the cover basically just had a little bit of a hole in it because it looks like somebody hit both of them with a weed whacker or lawnmower, and it's and as you know, animals will get in there, and it's best to take care of little things first, but. I just like the fact that, I get to write off my trip because I go visit my building.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And so, and likewise, when I had properties in California, I go to the beach, go visit family that I had living there.
Right.
And because I was born originally in California. But, so, hey, anybody watching got anything to add to this? Please feel free. And anyways. So what else? What else is on your mind right now, or what are you thinking about other than taxes?
Politics.
Oh yeah, the caucus last night. I'll tell you what, that was pretty amazing. So Trump got 98 out of 99 counties. He won, clean, and he got over 50% of the vote.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting because I read this article, and it was in the Wall Street Journal this morning, about the Democrats from Iowa are more upset with the fact that they moved it out, and so.
Well, and they let Democrats switch parties to voting these stupid things, which I don't like. But I mean, they do it in a lot of places.
I mean, it doesn't bother
but
me much,
and who do you suppose they mostly voted for? I'd guess. You go ahead.
The Democrats, I would guess they voted for Christie.
Well, no. But at the caucus, Christie wasn't there. I'm talking about of the caucus goers.
Of the caucus goers, probably. Let's think. Iowa.
I'm thinking Haley.
Haley or DeSantis?
Yeah. I think they want.
Well, because
the most progressive of the bunch, which I think that would be her.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I always tell people it's a weird situation because half the people. I wouldn't want to be president because that half the people hate you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to be president, but I wouldn't want to have to go through the election process.
No, you would like to be God.
Yeah. I'd like to be the president, but I don't want to go through the election process, right? The vetting.
Yeah, I would like to be God for a day, but not president for a day. It's to me, it's like there's a lot of moving pieces right now. So I don't know what's going to happen. That was the hardest to predict, but I also don't think it really is going to matter that much at the end of the day.
I do. I mean, what I'm thinking about, because we've had a bet, and so I bet Trump's going to win. And I won $100 from Mark on the first election, lost it on the second election.
He bet me before Trump was the final Republican candidate. He bet me on the day I announced. I got every Republican and every Democrat other than one named Trump, and I still lost.
Yeah.
So I framed it for him. I gave him his $100 in a frame.
Yeah. And then I lost it. Of course,
By the way, that was a good bet, but this goes back to some deals. That was a good deal. I had the odds in my favor, and I still lost. So sometimes you lose even when it's a good deal. Just you just got to keep plugging out there sometimes.
Right. And Mark's reasoning, by the way, is he's got a hedge that even if he loses the bet and loses money to me, he wins by the fact that Trump wins. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I do think that, the biggest thing that I can, and Tom knows this, like my biggest political issue is I'm a balanced budget type person.
Oh, that's what got me into politics. We can talk about that too, by the way.
Yeah. And more because I actually believe that that's the only thing that can destroy our country long term.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the Republicans or Democrats have not served me well in the last 10 years, either side.
Well, ever,
No,
really.
For a while, 20, 30 years ago, and that's just a belief I have that eventually, people will say, this is where I'll go back to the gullibility again. People go, oh no, there's this new fiscal policy which says governments can spend forever and it has no impact ever. And I'm like, okay, you keep believing that. That's not a theory I endorse. And I do have to say we have a lot of runway because we are a very rich nation. And so, I don't believe in there's this ratio of debt to GDP that people throw out and they go, well, we're at a high level and nothing's happening. I go, that's because it's the wrong metric. It should be debt versus net worth, which would be more applicable to how rich your country is, how much debt you can have. It would be like if you were doing a real estate deal.
Well, but you still have the issue of the balanced budget, which I can tell you what brought me, which is kind of what I decided where I'm at. And believe me, I don't like either party. I think they're one party on Capitol Hill. I just think they are. I don't believe there is really two separate parties. It's dinner theater for the most part. But what I was going to say is back when I was in my early 20s, I sold my first company. And I had already had a bunch of real estate, so I didn't need to work anymore. And I spent quite a bit of time watching C-SPAN. C-SPAN was new. Newt Gingrich had opened up the cameras to the floor, and then the balanced budget. Newt Gingrich had the contract with America, and part of that was a balanced budget amendment, a balanced budget. And so I watched the Democrats, and it was Tom Daschle and Gephardt. Gephardt and Daschle were the two heads of the two, Senate and Congress. And, man, they were squirming. They did not want that balanced budget for anything. No. And they kept trying to explain it like, well, it's like in buying a house. Look, when you buy a house, you have a mortgage. But it really has nothing to do with it because there's no tangible assets. They're just burning money. And, but they did not want that. And the Republicans at the same time pretended to want it. They really pretended to want it. And because when that thing went up for a vote, you could see the tally of votes, and it was overwhelmingly going to pass. And you ever get to look this up on YouTube, you probably can't even find it. But you would see that the balanced budget was overwhelmingly going to pass. And in fact, the Democrats were so frustrated with the fact that they couldn't get around it that they created the balanced budget amendment. And so when they'd get cornered and asked, hey, are you going to vote for the balanced budget? They'd go, well, I did vote for the balanced budget amendment. And they'd almost whisper amendment when they'd say it because they created an amendment that did nothing, but it gave them that one-liner to say the balanced budget. I voted for the balanced budget amendment, which did nothing. And there's a lot of stuff like that out there. But it really gave me an education on politics and how ugly it is. And I saw that vote go up, and I thought, oh, well, I can't believe it. It's going to pass. It was overwhelmingly like 15 votes. And then as the time was running out, they kept jumping ship. Till it got down to being one Republican. It passed by one Republican, or was about to, and that last Republican jumped ship. So it wouldn't pass. And you could expect the same for term limits and everything else. And, Well,
that's only because, we share this cynicism, which is, politicians' currency is money. And they can buy votes by giving away things.
Our money.
It's not
tax money.
So there was a Frenchman a long time ago, like in 1789 or something, and he was talking about when the Republic would fail, which he was referring to the United States, is when the people figure out that politicians are buying them with their own money. Anyway, it's
but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun year. And I'm looking forward to,
So what do you think real estate's going to do this year?
Me and my son, we bought 2 houses here recently. Liam, who's actually in the audience, he just bought one, got $100,000 under market or more. Russ also, and Jerry just in 2023, he just nailed a big one. He got a big, beautiful building. So it's always good. There's less people playing the game. The people that would do wholesaling, wholesaling is really for when it's a seller's market, and right now it's a buyer's market. There's not as much money. Money's expensive.
Correct.
People are worried about their jobs, and it's just too hard. I mean, I went into 2 deals in the last month, and I pulled out of both of them. I was beating up the sellers, but I couldn't beat them up enough for it to make sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of more of a buyer's market than a seller's market.
Absolutely.
But I also think like one of the things that I think is always true, which is I don't know if the averages matter. I think the deals matter.
Yeah, deals is everything, right?
Yeah, because it's like even in a bad market you can find a good deal, and in a good market you can find a bad deal.
Yeah,
it's just being smart about what actually
Yeah,
you can find more good deals in a good market, but
Yeah, the problem is right now is there's people that are upside down in their mortgages.
Yep.
And Ben Malla is actually one of them. He's a big name, and he owns a lot of property. Yep. But, he screwed up. He didn't refi his property. So he's in a position where, if the property that he is going to sell, and he is putting some up for sale, we're going to have to sell those at a loss. And then on top of the loss, many of those properties are depreciated to nothing. So he's got to pay a premium on the taxes.
Yeah.
He's not going to do the cap. He's not going to be able to roll it into something else because he needs cash, presumably. And there's a lot of presumption here. But so that's a huge problem. And then, there's people that, in other low tax or no tax states like California where they inherit money and they're giving it to people to invest in places like Texas and no tax states, and they're happy with a 5 cap.
Yeah.
5.5, and it's probably it's probably a good thing for them to do that, but it still destroys the market for us because, I can't borrow money at 5.5%.
Correct.
So it's really an interesting time. The whole, like I say, there's just not as many players, there's not as much stuff turning, not as much opportunity because people are stuck in mortgages, or they're stuck because their mortgage is low and they can't move to something else. I get more calls now on my commercial portfolio and in industrial stuff than I do my residential stuff. Mm-hmm. It used to be 100% difference.
And people are, if you have a 3% loan, it's like you're not going anywhere.
Right, right. But there's a real drive. I mean, everybody wants commercial property right now. And I'm in an area where they passed the redensification here, right? More or less.
So they passed the first part of it, which I don't even, it didn't have to pass. So that was the whole, so pass is the answer is it's going forward. The first part was they allow multiple buildings on a property, but now there's still a minimum that is a second piece that they're planning to do, which is to lower the minimum that you need so that you can actually have like 3 buildings. They're trying to get it to where it's like a minimum of I can't remember, 2,500 square feet. You can have a building on it.
Right, and so to catch people up that are watching, basically we're in a city where they're really pushing higher density on the properties. And they were trying to do select areas, which only favored select people, of course, and a lot of pushback against it. People don't want to, look out their backyard and look at a 3-story building, looking into their backyard that wasn't ever there, that could never have been built, but now you can put 3 buildings on a single, lot. And that's what they're doing. And it's pretty interesting because I don't like any of it, to be honest, and I make a lot more money because I own a lot of property. But by increasing this density, increasing the values of the property, at the same time, they're opting for bike lanes where we don't need them and reducing the road access. The roads are terrible in places where they've taken out a lane so they can put a bike lane on both sides of the road. So they're ruining the transportation, while at the same time densifying the population where the roadways are more important than ever. So it's like people are going to be like enslaved or stuck.
Well, it's even,
and I think that
in my opinion, it's going to get worse because, just think in Austin, right? So let's just say you triple the density widely, right? So now you got a whole bunch of infrastructure problems. Besides the roads, what are you going to do with power? like I'm pretty sure if you put 3 families in a lot versus
the grid, Jesus.
Which the grid, I actually believe that software I'm talking about, which is kind of in the kind of like they're essentially Carfax for buildings is what they're doing, so that you can, because there's a lot of reporting requirements on for kind of the energy and benchmarking in the United States.
No, but I remember there was a big election issue about, 20 years ago, and everybody's talking about the grid. Each side's criticizing, well, I'm going to rebuild the grid. I'm going to add, because the rolling blackouts. Yeah. That's all you heard about. You remember when that was going on?
Added shit to the grid.
No, and as soon as the election was over, you never heard rolling blackout ever again. And now what do you do hear about? Electric cars, everybody needs one. Get rid of your gas range. And this is in California where the biggest rolling blackouts were happening. And here they're talking about making things 10 times harder on the grid.
Yeah.
That's supposedly insufficient. It just, you know what I mean? It just sucks when the government is involved. They just do all the wrong things.
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah.
So how do you think climate change is going to affect, like, not so much the climate change, but the rules are going to affect, commercial and real estate? I think there's some opportunity there, just, because like in the Denver area, they're gonna start taxing buildings that are kind of not very energy efficient. And so again, I go back to the thing is like where things change significantly, there's generally opportunities to, like, if you can figure it out, you don't even have to be first. You have to be like second or third, because I don't like being first, because first is a dangerous spot.
Absolutely.
Third or fourth,
You just jump in before it goes bad.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And but to that point, listen, this stuff's been going on forever too. So look, I've had, when I first, I don't know, say 20 years ago, I had a bunch of apartment buildings, and I resented it because what was going on with the city, because what they do is I had people constantly knocking on my door, and they were wanting to replace all my toilets.
Correct.
And they say, the city will pay for it. And it's like, and because they want to take my 5-gallon toilets and reduce them to 1.6 gallons. Yes. And to be honest, I didn't want that because when you have an apartment, you want plenty of water taking that waste, because otherwise you have backups and it costs you far more than that. But in other words, they love situations where they can create an excuse to spend your tax dollars. And like right now it's green. Oh, it's not green. It's not efficient. Yeah. And so by efficiency, it gives somebody an excuse, say, well, we'll pay for half your air conditioner, or we'll pay for 3/4 of your solar panels, Mark, right?
Yes. And thank you, Tom.
yeah. Mark's got solar panels. We paid for them, by the way.
Mostly Tom, but
but yeah. Anyways, it's just, I don't know. It's probably never going to change.
Well, no, it's not. That's why, I always tell people, it's like, if you think things are going to change, they're just going to get different. And, my wife is reading a bunch of like autobiographies of presidents, right? And it's kind of funny because I am actually kind of a history person, because I actually believe history repeats itself. So, and she'll now tell me these things, and I'm like, yeah, that I knew that, and plus, did you get this? And she's like, well, I'm not to that chapter yet. Politics is no worse than it ever was.
Yeah, I know. And so I was going to think about this for a second, because you said history repeats itself.
Correct.
But is it history that's repeating itself, or is it's just the roots?
Human behavior.
And that's corruption.
Correct.
Greed, of course.
Yep.
Those are the things that don't go away, and that's why you say history repeats itself. Those are the driving forces that create this greed.
Which circles all the way back to why you're gullible and what you should look out for, which is there's a shyster at every corner.
I say it all the time. There's a sucker born every minute, and there's a shyster fake guru born every minute too. No quick money unless you're selling a course. LOL, I guess. That's okay. Oh, hey, Gotham. Good to see you in here. He was on the phone with me earlier today. Jerry, yeah. So, yeah, and we're going to have to do, sometime we're going to have to do, I'm going to have to end up doing some sort of like a convention here for Flip Anything here locally, because these guys are great, and you get along with them too really well, Mark. But anyways, I don't know. I'm glad I'm a spectator, and I tell this to my students, and my students are spectators too. They all made the right decisions when things were going down, and they made a lot of money in the last couple of years, and or they didn't get caught in a bad deal, which is as good as not making a deal. It's even better than not making a deal, is getting caught into something that snags you. But it's better to be a spectator when things are going down the tubes, and I think they're going down the tubes right now. And there's going to be opportunity. You just don't want to be one of the people that gets snagged. I don't know.
As you know, I'm less pessimistic than you are, but mainly because I think there'll be a recession. I just don't know if it's going to be like, it was kind of funny as like the Wall Street Journal this morning. It's like, well, it's not going to be a recession, but a lot of people aren't going to think that because they're going to feel it. It's going to feel like a recession. So I'm like, whatever. But again, I think you can make money in good times and bad times.
100%. No, I've made a lot of money in bad times.
So I can be disgusted. Like, I'm disgusted about the like, my one voting issue is like the debt. And I have nobody to vote for. And I can be disgusted about that, but at the end of the day, it's like I'm not like overly crazy about the fact that the world is coming to an end. It's always been this way. You just gotta find your spots, and you gotta be willing to work for it, and just like make some money here, make some money there, get good deals, and if you don't understand the deal, pass. It's like you're better off like finding really good deals and jumping on them. I'm part of an investment group in North Carolina also, and it's like when we first started talking, at the guy that runs it, he was like, we were talking at the first meeting, and I'm like, and he says, well, we told people we're going to be diversified. And I go, well, just I would tell people that based on what we're doing, we're going all in on this. And if you want out, we got plenty of people to buy your position because we think this is a sweetheart deal. And we went all in, and we made a bunch of money. And it was kind of like, because you can tell, you can tell opportunities that are okay. And then you can find things that you're like, holy shit, I need to get on this. And when those come up, you just got to like jump on them.
Yeah.
They don't come up very often.
No, I was just along those lines. I was thinking the other day, if you do nothing, you're not going to win. If you do nothing.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
You got to play the game.
You got to play the game. And whether you invest, as long as you cover your basics, make sure that you don't pay too much, make sure that you get a decent interest rate. You know what I mean? You'll make money, and you can do that and make millions.
You can get a 5 cap.
You can be a little sharper and you can make tens of millions. But but if you don't do something, nothing's going to happen. You have to do something.
Right.
You can't just sit on one asset. You can't just buy your home or buy nothing, and complaining about it ain't going to get you anything anyways.
No.
So out there watching, are we spurring any thoughts? Anybody? Andrew wrote, if you don't know who the sucker in the room is, like Tom says, thanks. Yeah, that's probably you. Yeah, and that's true. Yeah, there's no question.
What movie was that from? It was.
Was it from a movie or?
It's from a movie.
I'm thinking it's probably been around 300 or 400 years.
It probably has been.
Probably in the Bible.
The movie was a poker movie. Somebody out there has to know. So hopefully a young guy will send it in that knows, or young woman, either one.
What movie did they say that? Yeah. God, who knows? Wall Street? Who knows?
No, it was somebody playing like high stakes poker, if I remember right. I just can't remember it. And it was like, when you walk into the room, if you don't know who the sucker is, it's you.
Yeah. Well, I know. Yeah, that's interesting. I saw. In fact, I thought there's a real estate young guy. He's not a bad guy, but he's not the brightest guy. Ryan Pineda, and he was walking through these apartment buildings, and I said, yeah, he's the sucker, and he doesn't know it. He doesn't know he's the sucker. And sure enough, that deal, he's taking $1 million out of his own pocket now. He was putting a fund together. That was a giant mistake. And, anyways, if you've got some, if you've been doing something for a long time ago, it's just very difficult to fool people when you're very proficient at your trade.
Correct. Yeah, it's you just done it enough that it goes back to, like the one area, like I've done a lot of contracts, and it's like I can read a contract in like 30 minutes and tell you if there's weird shit in it. And then you'd be like, well, weird shit's not necessarily bad. And it's like, yeah, but if it's worrisome weird shit, you'd be like, I'm just not going to do it. And, it's like, that's what experience gets you, is it gets you that like, okay, like that doesn't sound right. And if it doesn't sound right, it may be right, but and to me, this goes back to where we started, which is if it, I'm kind of very blunt. Like I would ask somebody, it's like, well, this doesn't sound right to me. Like you with your negotiation, like explain it to me. I don't get it.
Right, and if they can't explain it, then there's a problem too.
Or if they were hand wave. Right. Oh, you don't understand. This is very, very complicated.
Yeah. But it's also like you say, a lot of times, I don't want to say I buy with my gut, but I certainly do get a gut feel, what I consider that is it's just intuition. But I figure I'm just tapping into a database that's working in the back end that's not real obvious. I don't have to think it through. It's like, it's like when people, I don't think I should get in this elevator, and then you don't, and somebody else gets mugged. And it's because you realize, oh yeah, these guys are eerily like other people that I know are bad. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's, so listen to your gut. It's important. Gotham wrote, Tom, what types of buildings are you mentees buying? What businesses are generally creating massive cash flow? I'm new to commercial. So Gotham, I just teach everybody what I know firsthand, and that is you can make a lot of money flipping houses and flipping land, and it's a safe thing to do because you buy it, you sell it, you're done, you're clean, you got the cash. The assets I like to hold, and I don't think you should hold any assets till you have enough cash that you can buy some assets, maybe give you enough income that you can live on, so now you can quit your 9-to-5 job, and then you can still have some cash left over that you can continue to do what made you the most money so quickly, investing. So, and ultimately, I mean, listen, the reason I love commercial, but to your question, I like commercial retail and I like industrial. I get a little bit nervous sometimes in industrial because I see all these jobs going to China and Mexico. So I get a little nervous over in industry. And I've been to China, I've been to Taiwan, and I've seen how cheaply they can make things. And I've been a part of companies that we ordered a shitload of stuff from those places. Yeah. Because it is so cheap. Yeah. And so that makes me nervous with the industrial. But with commercial, what I try to look for is stuff that's Amazon proof, right? And so that means, bars and restaurants and schools, tattoo shop.
I'll add one other that a bunch of venture capital.
Dialysis.
Well, I have a dialysis, but
but I'm saying, Amazon.
Veterinarians, like the venture capital, are buying them up because people spend a lot of money on their pets.
A huge business, yeah.
It's a huge business, and the rents for those, they're hard to move because, people don't want to go to a different place. So anyway, but it's the same thing. It's like, where are people not going to move? Because the money, and people don't understand this, changing tenants is a huge cost. It's a huge risk. And the more that people can't move, it's just amazing. Like you just want that cash flow to just ching. And I think if you can figure out who's not going to move, which is all the people you were talking about, right? Like
exactly.
Not going to China.
They all rely on relationships within that neighborhood.
Right.
Right.
And by the way, what that usually gets you out of is kind of Class A office, because it's got a lot of money.
Oh, you can have it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of money. Some people love it. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just not for me. I like the coupon cutting, and that just kind of like bringing in money every month and not with a lot of changeover and kind of like down and dirty. So
yeah. Nothing will make you angrier than sitting in a lawyer's office at the top of a building with a gorgeous view, sitting at a you know what I mean? You're going, geez, spending $600-800 an hour.
And then they talk about they want to get out of their lease because they can't afford it.
Yeah. You just said something. Reminded me of something. What were we talking about just for this?
Bets.
The properties that are safe.
Yeah.
Gotham's question. So like I say, I look for properties that can't be wiped out. And like he was talking about, I know I was going to say, veterinary clinics are getting bought up.
Yeah.
So are chiropractic places.
Yes.
The Joint is a big one now you see everywhere. Dental, you'll see dentists are getting bought up left and right. And also CPA firms.
Correct.
CPAs are, all becoming part of a, much bigger
the
place.
CPAs I don't like as much as the other one, only because they can go remote. But I agree with again, this is you have to kind of like think, I always say, and I wouldn't take our answer, I'd think for yourself is like, in your area, what's not going to move or has a low probability? Because it does vary by region, but it's like, from my vantage point, it's like people are getting older. That goes to the dentist, the joint, the pain, chiropractors. All you just got to do is talk to your parents, your old guys, and they'll tell you like going to the doctor is important, and you can't move that stuff.
No, and like I say, you can see two strip centers that are across the street from each other. And guess what? They have the exact same kind of businesses. In other words, they have the same businesses, just different owners.
Correct.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of places that I look for. As Tom knows, mine has dialysis and a dentist.
There you go. Right. Yeah. So dialysis is really safe, right? Because we're
Well, it's less safe than it used to be because
unless they figure out a way to cure it.
Well, the diabetes like drug is actually helping to slow up that also. So.
Right.
But I'm good for like 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So, well, anyways, I think we can wrap it up.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So, anyways, hey, everybody, thanks for watching. And I'm glad nobody called because we couldn't take a call if we wanted to. It wouldn't. Yes.
Cheers, everybody.
Yep. Cheers.
Have a good evening.
Anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. And we'll do it again. Thanks, Mark. And we'll see you all later.
And listen, time is on a mission to eliminate all the snake oil and the fake gurus that fake y'all. He'll show you how to build an empire, starting with nothing but a desire. All you really need is a good mentor, not a used car bullshit. With time, you'll learn to crush it. Investing like Warren Buffett. With real estate, you cannot procrastinate. Everyone who hesitates is left at the starting gate. Hey, yo, so don't delay and join today. The mentorship and flip anything. USA, go.